Welcome to Finding Joy Live. I am so happy to be here today with my good friend Collean O'Brien. We are really lucky to have her today in the house because we're going to be talking about money and joy and how they're related to each other or not, you never know. So thank you so much for joining me here today, Colleen.
Oh, thank you, Donnalynn. And thank you for making me feel so special. Like we're so lucky to have Colleen
I
here.
feel like that. I feel like that. Don't you?
It makes it sound
I
like I was gonna say it makes it sound like I'm so super booked. Like, oh my God, like I can't, we're so lucky that she gave us the time.
well, I will tell you that I feel that. I feel like regardless of what you do with the rest of your time, I feel really honored to be in your presence, you know? I mean, I think that, when people are doing work that is around growth, personal growth, right? How do we get from who we were yesterday to who we are today and who we want to be tomorrow? I think that's incredible work. And so I always love being around you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inflating my ego just a little bit. But honestly, I feel like you really make your guests shine. And so every person that you bring onto this show or any of your podcasts, you put them forward in the best light. And that just elevates the experience for everybody who's watching, as well as for those of us who are participating. Like you are really leading by example. Like talk about finding joy. You're creating it. You're creating this atmosphere. So thank you so much.
I'm so
I'm
glad
so
anybody
lucky to
feels
have
like
you.
that. I'm so glad anybody feels like that because I just think that joy is worth reaching for every chance you get, you know? So if you're here and you want to say hi, please do so in the comments. We should be able to see you. And if you're on replay, do the same. So, Colleen, you're going to talk to us today. I had to not even say that you were a theta healer, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that you
It's
talk a
something
little
it's
bit
something
about
that I
what do you
do.
do and what's the framework that you see life through that someone in your line of work would see life through. Like theta healing sounds really cool. Sounds super cool. I'm
It
going to do a little unnecessary zoom just for fun.
Ooh, okay. Yes. And thank you, Facebook user. For whatever reason, your name is not coming through, but hello. Thank you for being here. So glad to see you here. Yeah, so we'll just give you like the really quick insight about my journey as a theta healer. I've been doing it for several years, and it is one of the many ways that you can do belief work changes. And I mean, you can do a bunch of stuff with it, but where I see the real power is being able to identify those subconscious programs that are getting in your way of changing your life. Because if you could logic through it, you would have done it by now. But there's something deeper that's going on. And a lot of times it's your subconscious just trying to keep you safe, right? It's trying to do its job, keep you safe, keep you alive. And a lot of times your subconscious is beyond logic. So it solves problems really well, but it doesn't necessarily do it the way that your logical conscious brain would choose to do it. So being
Yeah.
able to find those and then change those, because I love that theta healing is so quick. And one of the many things that I have been using the theta healing technique to help delve into is what is all is some your money stuff. what
Mhm.
what is are the beliefs about money that are holding you back from really having as much as you want, from feeling as good as you can about it? Because some people have tons of money, but they just feel awful about it. They've got a really lousy relationship with it. And even working on your money can improve your relationships with your family, because so much of the way that we operate with money we learn it from our family. I mean, there's also a lot of programs out there, just in society and just being in a capitalist society and trying to buy, particularly this time of year too, with the holidays, and we've got to spend money because tis the season of joy. How do you have joy? You spend money and you have lots of gifts, right?
All right, so let's get into that. Let's get into that right there. Because just before we started, we were talking about how, you know, uh, we like to say that money can't buy joy, but it's not really true. Okay? It's not really true.
There's
And
plenty
what I
of
mean
joyful
by
things
that,
for sale. Yes.
but what I mean by that is that there are thrills that you can engage in, and sometimes money is a facilitator of that, right? If I went out and I bought a new car right now, I'd be like, woohoo, all day, right? All day. And then tomorrow, I'd be thinking about how much does it cost to register it in this state, and how much does it cost to maintain it, and right, all of that money blockage stuff would still be there. All of that not joy stuff would still be there. And my feeling like a victim to my desire and my funness, right, would still be there. So I think that's where we get a little off course, where sometimes we feel like I am joyous. I do have a good relationship to money. I buy things. I buy the organic food so I don't have to go to the doctor 28 times a day, and all the things, right? And we spend and we say, "Oh, good, good, good." But that's not really what we're talking about when we're talking about a relationship to money, is it?
Right. Because so much of it, although your interaction or transaction with the money is what triggers that, it's not really about the money at the end of the day.
Right. So I love the acknowledgement that money is energy exchange, right? So in my world, we talk a lot about joy and happiness, and all of that is really great. You can do it by yourself. It's not like you have to have other people.
It
But
helps.
when
It
we
certainly
do it
helps.
with other people, that's what we're doing. We're exchanging energy. So you walk down the street, it's Christmas time. You walk down the street, there's somebody dinging a bell. You go, "Oh, hello, hello. Oh, it's so good to see everybody," right? You have given something, right? You put
You've
something in the
received
bucket.
something as well,
Yes,
right?
and you put something in the bucket, and you've given and you've received, right? And so there's this exchange of energy happening. And so when we talk about money blockages, right? So how it sort of sabotages that ability to really get to joy. Let's talk about, how does that happen? How does it why do we have blockages? Like, how does that happen in our world? Because it's such a simple equation when we talk about it like that, right? Like, oh, I smile, that's currency. Oh, I take $1 out of my pocket, that's currency in terms of energy. So that sounds super simple, but what gets in our way? How did we get the blocks? What are the blocks?
So, I love that you use the word currency, right? Because there is a flow to that. And if you want to keep going with, the electrical engineering sort of thing, yay! Oh, I'm super big now. Um, they, if you run into resistance, right,
Mm,
that blocks that flow.
mm,
So if it, you could say it's an awful lot of things, but a lot of times what it all boils down to is fear,
mm,
right? And we are avoiding pain.
mm,
So, not having enough money, fear that we're not going to get more money, that can block that flow, right? Like, oh, I got to hold on to what I've got. I've got to hoard it, or I've got to be really careful about where I spend it. And it's just all boils down to fear. What are you afraid
mm,
of? People are
mm,
afraid of change, and so that's why they won't actually take a step a lot of times and do a program or work on themselves, because this is the devil they know. Hey, this I
mm,
know this works. It might not feel great, but I know it works. I know I'm safe. I know I'm not going to die. I might suffer a lot, but I know if I change something, that's the unknown. Fear
mm,
of the unknown, it will trip you up a lot. You've got to be able to be brave enough, feel safe enough where you are, and want to take that step. I love being able to walk towards something that I'm choosing rather than running away from something that I'm fearing or is pain, right? I would
mm.
rather walk towards the promise or the hope of more pleasure. And I think you're the same, Donnalynn. But a lot of people, and even a lot of sales, will try to play up all of that pain and that suffering, and will be like, what is this worth to you? Are you going to spend another day feeling awful about money?
Mm.
I'm like,
So
that's
it's an
not how
interesting,
I wanna, make people feel. I don't wanna have
yeah,
to play up the way that, them feeling awful in order to
yeah.
try and make it helping them feel better
You make
that
a
much
good
better.
point, Colleen, but I gotta say, a lot of times people feel validated, right? And that's an important kind of first step, right? Where essentially we're raising awareness when we talk about what the problem is. And I feel like um absolutely most people get stuck there.
Right,
most
right.
most of the time,
You've gotta lead
yeah.
with empathy and then offer hope, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that hope a little bit, right? So we've got this situation where, let's say, I'm going to buy a program that helps me deal with my money blocks, which is hysterical to me, right? Because I look at that and I go like, well, how do you get somebody to open their wallet if they got money blocks, right? Right? Because that's the first thing that you say, well, oh gosh, it's so much, or I don't know if it's the right time, or I don't know if it's going to work for me, right? So what is that process like to go through in your mind and say, to really evaluate, right? You, I'm going to I'm going to preface a little more even. Um, but you talked about how we live in our world and we don't live in the unknown most of the time. And it really reminded me of this period of my life where I felt like I just walked through a giant portal where I got up every day and I was like, I know who I used to be doesn't work, but I know that I should trust myself. So, how do I do that and be in the unknown when everything about me is saying, in the case of buying a program, right? Don't spend the money, don't spend the time, don't believe that you could possibly have a different relationship to money. Don't you know that there are so many people out there making they keep all the money anyway. You're never going to get any of it. All of that stuff that's the gunk that's in our brains. How do we deal with that to get to a point where we go like, yeah, I got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to evaluate your priorities
Hmm.
can be really empowering. Like, what is important to me? What experience do I want to have going forward? Right. And you could even do this every day. What experience do I want to have today? What do I want to prioritize? And you often are like, I'm choosing joy. I'm prioritizing joy no matter what. Joy. Joy is it.
Yeah.
I'm voting for joy, voting with my emotions, voting with my thoughts, voting with my dollars. Joy is
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
That is your top
That's
thing.
right. That's right. That's right. Because that's the framework that everything makes sense for me in, is that if I can just find something in me, like that thing we were talking about a minute ago, where we were like, well, I'm not who I used to be and I'm not who I want to be. So, how do I trust myself? And for me, joy is the answer. Right. So, and I think that's true. I mean, we've got science behind that as well. Right. So if we can take a minute, kind of come inside the body, become really, really present and aware, and decide like, does that feel better? Does that thought feel better? Or does that thought feel better? And continue to live in that world where we say, what thought feels better? And am I willing to go there? Am I willing to believe, in the case of your program, am I willing to believe that all it will take is me looking at myself and doing some inner work and spending a little bit of money to get that, to become a different financial entity in the world, to be able to be different about money? How long have I been like this, right? So that's a pretty big piece of willingness. Am I willing to believe?
Yeah. Am I
I
willing to
am
bet
every
on?
day.
Yes, I know you do. You do all the time. But you're a sure bet, right? A lot of people now, I think a lot of the people who are listening to this, it's not really all that foreign to them to be like, oh, let me feel into this. Let me be aware, right? But there are other people who are just like, oh, that even just that considering doing that is too scary, right? They just want to stay in the world of the known, the world of the safe, and just sort of figure it out. Whereas when, like you said, you can go into your body, because that'll give you a lot of clues. Like if you imagine what your life is going to be like if it's different, see how you feel, right? That's one of the biggest, easiest manifestation exercises, if you think, okay, imagine you have all the money you could ever dream of, whether you put a dollar amount on it or not. What is your life like? And does that feel really expansive? And at first it might feel really good. And there, I've met some people, and I've done this too. I like try to force it, like, oh my God, like I have this great house. And then I think, oh my God, who the heck is going to clean this thing? It's gigantic. It's, and
I have heard people do this. This is so great.
you know,
It's true. It's
so
true.
you
It's
start
true.
like, oh yes, oh that's the dream. That's what everybody says. And then as you start filling in the details, your energy just collapses, and you can feel it in your gut. It gets all really crunchy and like ah. So no wonder you're not manifesting that, because you don't want to feel that crunchy, really collapsed energy. So you're subconsciously not even allowing yourself to take those steps or even feel any more details into just the imagined thing. And that's where you get your biggest clue. That's where you start. Because once you can negotiate, okay, what's causing that? What's the origin of that? Why do you feel that way about the big house and having to clean it? It might be something really simple from your own experience, but one of the things that we're focusing on in this money workshop that I'm offering is, let's look at your ancestors, and not just the ones like your parents, grandparents, etc., like your real far ancestors, because their experience with money is way different than yours, but their experience with money allowed them to survive generation after generation after generation to where you are here today. So they're really important programs, like subconscious programs that have been passed down. But the great thing about working with ancestors is it kind of takes the load off a little bit. You kind of can maybe blame them a little bit, like, oh, this isn't entirely my fault. This is some person I never met before. So that's also a nice little way to almost even trick yourself to be like, oh wow, I don't have to be completely responsible for this.
So I love that you're giving it a framework. I feel like there's so much that we don't know about how the world works, right? And we have a lot of science around, interstitial energy, essentially, right? Energy we can't see, and it's between the spaces, and we have a lot of science around it. But there's so much that we don't know, that to be willing to say, hey, I'm going to reach into those spaces of the unknown and find my willingness to align with what I really want in those spaces, right? Because that's kind of what we're talking about when we go back and we think about talk to inter exchange, with the things that are beyond us, right? They're in time, sometimes they're in space. We are doing two things. If that is absolutely real, and mazel tov, right? Then we're doing that. But even if it isn't, even if it's not in your belief system, even if you're in a religion that says, hey, this is like too far out for us, right? Even if that is the case, then you're still doing the work that's inside you. You're finding a little tiny crack of least resistance where you can be willing to say, my grandmother was a cleaner, my great grandmother was a cleaner, my great grandmother was a cleaner, and they all believed that if they were nice to people with money, they would get money. And that's a really different framework than what is going to work in this particular world that we're in, right? Especially if you have big dreams, right? If whatever those big dreams are.
Yeah, yeah, and some of those conversations you can have with your ancestors, they're really kind of fun, right? Because the thing about your ancestors is they love you, they want to support you, but they still think that the world works the way that it was when they left, right? And sometimes that doesn't always work now in the modern world. Like there was I had mentioned in yesterday I had done a live stream and I said, this third or fourth great grandmother came to me and she was like, Colleen, no one is ever going to pay you because you're not actually selling anything, right? To her, it wasn't a tangible thing. I wasn't selling goods. And for her experience, if you were making money or doing an exchange, there had to be a physical thing that had to be exchanged for the money. But because I'm
Yeah.
doing a service and I'm doing it over the internet, she had no concept of what the internet was or any, so she was just like, well, of course you're never going to make any money, Colleen. You're not actually selling anything. Because
Right.
she
Right.
couldn't
So
see
this is
it, she couldn't
interesting,
touch it.
right?
Yeah.
Because this is so much more powerful than a thing. So a lot of times people get on the internet or they go out in the world and they put their little sign outside their, place of business and they say, "Hey, I can help you manage your money or I can help you advertise so you make more money." But all of those things, no matter what it is, whatever that product is, all of those things presume that you're ready to receive. And if you're not ready to receive, then none of those are going to work, right? So, this mindset work, essentially, right? Theta,
Yep.
theta is a
Hmm.
mind state, right?
Yep.
This mindset work is a preamble to that. You can't, none of it's the works. That's how come you end up in the circle, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
that that you could be trapped in that drama of just, staying in that same energy. Like for, the way that I visualize it, it's like you're on that hamster wheel and it's just not going slow enough for you to be able to get off. You want to get off, but you can't. You just have to keep up and
yeah.
you're just stuck on it.
Unless you do this kind of work. Unless you do this work where you really deal with raising that awareness and then doing something with it, finding a way to make your way forward into that unknown. So this is the same process that I use in helping people to find a more joyous life, right? Is that a lot of times people are not ready to be happy because they think if they're going to be really happy, then their husband will probably leave them because he already thinks that he watched too much Hallmark or whatever.
Oh,
Um,
no, this is the time, man. You could get any, that formula, right? Like you can find that anytime, anywhere, streaming on cable. Now, if this is your moment. If you love those Christmas Hallmark movies, this is your moment. But do they, sometimes I can't even read romance novels anymore because there's a point in the book or the formula or even, the show where it's just like if the two of you would just talk to one another and get over this stupid misunderstanding that is sometimes artificially created so that they can get pulled apart so that they can come back together again. That's sort of what we're doing here. We're like, okay, we're just going to clear up the misunderstandings.
mm, mm, and you between you and your lover money.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well that's an access consciousness question. If money were your lover and it knocked on your door, would you let it in?
Mm, mm.
A lot of people
Well,
would
I,
just be
I
like,
don't know.
nope,
I mean, a lover knocking on my door sounds kind of good. It sounds like.
But you're ready. You're ready. You're open. A lot of
Well,
people
I'm
aren't.
I'm not.
They're like,
I'm
oh my
not.
God.
I'm
They're
not
like,
going to be
no.
dating or anything. But still, in the etheric world, I think lovers sound like good things.
Well, and you really do. It is sort of a relationship that you have with money, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you treat it? Like do you take it for granted? Do you get mad at it when you feel like it shows up late? Or when it does show up, do you yell at it for not being there when you wanted it
Mm,
before? Like,
mm.
and then when you treat money that way, is it any surprise that it doesn't show up? If somebody treated you that way, would
And
you?
honestly, there's both sides of this coin. So this is a thing that is very much in my consciousness right now is about how do I treat my bank account, right? Do I look at my bank account like you were talking about as if it's your lover? If I had a husband or a lover who I ignored, do you think it would go so well when I was like, "Come on, give me the goods," right? No, nothing's going to happen there, right? And so that's sort of like, how do I treat the places that deal with money in my life? The tax reports that I have to do, or looking at my bank account, or having a savings account, or wanting one, or wanting to invest, or right, whatever that is. When I was younger, I would put money away for retirement, and I would pretend it didn't exist And that's a really interesting thing, right? Because it's a trick of the mind to get you not to spend it, but also it discounts. It discounts, right? Instead of being like, I love you, you're over there doing the thing that I want done for the future, and I'm so excited, right? Instead of allowing it to be an excuse for us to find alignment, find happiness, find yes in the body, right? So this is where, for me, this is really where that money and joy always overlap, because how can you be alive and not have happiness overlap, right?
I don't know. There's plenty of miserable people like who are just, staying alive and be like, well,
Well, you can live through it for a while, it's true,
yeah,
but
yeah,
not so much fun.
yeah. But yeah, if you are depressed, right? We use that word depression to talk about economically as well as emotionally, right? Like if you aren't feeling good in your body, like because money does have a huge physical component and it affects our physical lives here on earth. If you're not really happy about being embodied physically on earth, well, money's a part of that. And so you're pushing that away along with everything else that being on planet Earth and being alive and being a human offers and could be happy. But if you don't want to take the risk of, oh, I might feel worse, or oh, I might be rejected, well, then you're also not taking the risk of allowing money to show up or other people to show up or you to have those really good experiences. Unfortunately, we as humans are really wired to have a negative bias because it keeps us safe. But it means that we don't spend as much energy and time and memory about the things that make us happy. And so that's why the work that you do, Donnalynn, is so important, because it really emphasizes choosing joy, choosing
Yeah,
happiness, because it's there, but you're giving it more airtime. And then when you give
yeah.
it more airtime, then you can get more of that.
And you have to decide. There's a thing. You make a really good point here. I'm stammering around a little, but you make a very good point that there are people for whom safety is the top priority. And if safety is the top priority, you can live a very nice little life. And you can go to your job every day, and you might even be able to have a kid or two and have a relationship. And that's all, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when that gets in the way, that feeling of I need safety, when that gets in the way of your ability to choose or to reach for freedom, growth, and joy, which are the highlights of our life, right? Those are the moments where, like, yes, this is the moment. I got married, my kid got married, my whatever it is. This is it. I'm in my happy place. And that you have to be outside your safety zone in order to feel the miraculous or the extraordinary, right? However you choose to put that. And that's also true with money, right? So we can earn a salary and we can get our little whatever it is, 300, 600, 1200 dollars a week or whatever. I don't even know what people earn, what we earn now.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what decade I'm in. I like how I started in like the 1920s. Like, you could get your $4 a week, but you can do that. But there are not miraculous moments in that safety zone, right? And it's a great base, because once you're safe, then you can do those things that lead to freedom, growth, and joy. So, Colleen, tell us a little bit. We usually go about a half an hour here. Tell us a little bit about what you're offering, and I'll put up the sign that says how they can get in contact with you.
Yes. Send me a message when you're interested. We're doing a workshop. It is 2 live Zoom calls. You'll get the recordings as well. We're doing them on December 13th and December 15th. And we're also, if you sign up this week, you can also get a one-on-one half-hour session with me, because some of the stuff that's going to come up, you might not necessarily want to talk about it in a group. And it's all going to be really fun, really, I've already started feeling the energy of people who are interested in doing it, because I'm in preparation for the workshop. I've got to clear the stuff that's coming up for me, but now I'm becoming aware of some of the stuff that's coming up for others as well. So send me a message when you are interested, and we can talk about it and get you all the details. I'm also doing a 12 days of subconscious money beliefs between up until the 12th, well, including the 12th, because we're going to start on the 13th. So leading up to that. So if you want to catch the replays of the first 5 days, because I haven't done today's yet, you can do that on my YouTube channel. And and then you can catch the rest of them as well, so you can get a better feel for the type of material that we're talking about, as well as what it's like to work with me. So I think that's it. Does that make sense? Is there something I'm
That
missing?
totally makes sense. So there's a link. I put it in your chat. Hopefully it worked out there. I know Facebook is having a little bit of difficulty interacting with StreamYard, which is the platform that we're on. So I'll make sure that it gets on the Facebook as well. If it didn't just magically appear, it's the link that's on the bottom of the screen right now. And when you go to that page, you can find out a little bit more about what's going on there. And then, of course, you can message Colleen if you have questions, or if you want to sign up, right? All those things. So I am really glad that you came to talk to us about this today. I want to remind, I've never been a producer and the person talking at the same time.
You're doing a
And
fantastic
I'm
job.
going to just slow it down. I'm going to slow it a little bit down here. I just want to remind all you guys that you can always go to donnalynn.blog, and there's a really great handout that's only going to be up a little bit longer on that gives you practical tools for dealing with anxiety, worry, stress of all kinds. Really super practical, 3 different ways, and 3 different situational ways, right? So some where you prepare in advance, and some where you're in the moment of the stress. So go get that now, because in the next little while, we're going to be releasing a brand new free thing for you. And I think you're going to find it really, really useful, but you won't have access to that anymore. So go get it, and stay in touch, and get on that mailing list that it puts you on as well. So of course, if you ever want to contact me, I can't figure out how to make it go show and hide and all the things. I mean, come on. What am I?
You're well,
There we go.
you're already here.
Joy
Yeah.
Coach at DonnallynnRiley.us is the email. If you have any questions, always feel free to email me there. Thank you so much for being here today, Colleen.
Thank you so much for having me today here, Donnalynn. This was so
My
much
pleasure.
fun.
My
Yes. And
pleasure.
thank you for watching. Thank you for those of you who watch live, and thank you for those of you who watched the replay. It's so great to have you here as well.
You are welcome, and you're welcome. I see you, Facebook. I see you in not Instagram. It's YouTube. YouTube. Thank you.